Good afternoon, Pastor Paul.
Good afternoon. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing real good today. Real good.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. We're trying to get you cranked as high as we can. We got it all the way to the top. And I'm hoping that if you got any more volume, we'll accept it. We surely need it.
Well, I could just, how about that? Is that good to go?
That's good, that's good. How you doing? How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing really good, Pastor Paul.
Mike, it's perfect timing to have you on. I appreciate you accepting the invitation. And but yesterday we have the 2 earthquakes in Italy, and we have a meteorite crashing over there near the lake Begley in Russia. Is this the beginning of these meteorites, Mike, that you've mentioned before?
Well, I'll tell you, since this would be part of the influx, and understanding some of the shock waves that are coming through are critical to actually pinning down the size of the debris coming in. And it's really, our solar system is being thrown out of balance, right?
Right.
Jupiter is normally, in the solar system itself, of course, you have Earth, further out you have Mars in the asteroid belt, and then Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is changing. Jupiter is responsible for drawing or for keeping that belt in position. It adds balance. Or if Jupiter were not there, all those small rocks would be thrown into Mars and to the Earth and Venus and so forth. And so Jupiter's gravity is actually keeping that asteroid belt where it is. So any movement in Jupiter, any movement in Saturn or Jupiter would actually cause some of these asteroids to come inward into the inner solar system. And that's what we're beginning to see. Not only that, but outside of the heliosheath, we have some influx of highly irradiated particles, which is why they're detecting right now a high neutrino count coming in. Neutrinos are counted deep into the Earth, and they often precede a cosmic rays that are coming in, a radiation burst, if you would. And those neutrino counts are actually beginning to go up. So if you've ever seen a wave in the ocean, one that's somewhat small with a small ripple, right?
Right.
See it come up gradually and then it goes back out. The larger waves, the first thing you see is all the water going back into it, because of the mass of that wave and the forces in that wave actually draw the material into itself, and then it smashes in. And what we've seen since August 17th is we have seen a small decrease in activity, which is followed by a buildup of more activity. Before August 17th, we had a buildup, but that was just a small bump, causing the Earth to respond through volcanism and earthquakes. Well, now you're seeing a gradual, but it will begin to peak, and that's what a great many people are watching when this peak happens, because when a wave comes in, you're not going to be hurt when the water is being drawn back out like a tsunami. This would be comparable to a tsunami. Okay. You're not going to be hurt by the water going back out into the ocean, but you will be hurt by the wave, right?
Right.
And so what we see now is the water, it went into the ocean during the latter time of 2015. It went back, and so now it's coming back out again.
All right.
Now the intensity of that is, we know it's actually calculated to be about 8 to 1,000 times more than the August 17th wave. It caused ultraviolet to increase and everything else, and so we're having a lot of radiation.
So let's talk about this
right now.
All right, Mike. So for the common listener out there, including myself, this wave is not 500 times stronger than the wave of August 17th, but it's maybe 1,000 times stronger. And you're saying, will we, and we're going to feel a lot more radiation and a lot more ultraviolet rays coming from it, is what I'm hearing you say. And plus a lot of pressure. Will this set off more earthquakes, more volcanoes? Mike, when you say the first 100 days, matter of fact, here's a question from Becky. Mike, what does 100 days of pressure mean for us? so that we can understand. Because I can't see radiation. I can't see ultraviolet rays. But I do see an earthquake. I do see a volcano. But tell me, how will I know that I'm being affected by it? Will we see an effect of this radiation, ultraviolet rays? Will there be more heart attacks? What does it mean, Mike, 100 days of pressure?
Let me give you an example of something. I'm going to talk about the human body and your skin and the ultraviolet waves, okay?
Okay.
Light itself is a wavelength. So you have radio, microwave, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet light, X-ray, gamma rays, right? Radio would be the wavelength that's pretty big, right?
Right.
Going all the way down to gamma rays, it'd be a really tiny one. So you're looking at visible light is about the size of a protozoa or something like that. Ultraviolet is about the size of molecules. X-ray is about the size of an atom. Gamma rays about the wavelength of a atomic nuclei, right?
Okay.
So now, all of these waves, it's not that they're only divided because of the wavelength. And here's how it works. Radio waves pass through our bodies all the time. The reason why they don't damage us, right, is because they're large, lengthy waves. So your entire body can absorb them and then let them loose. Ultraviolet waves are so dangerous, and so are infrared and microwaves, because they are much smaller, right? When they're much smaller, that means they have a torpedo effect, so that if a microwave is focused on your skin, it begins to heat up the cells of your skin. The corneum heats up, the epidermis heats up, right? And the corium begins to heat up where your nerve endings and capillaries and all those things are, which can be dangerous. Ultraviolet is a molecule size wavelength, which will specifically begin to destroy molecules. And there are three types of ultraviolet light. You have ultraviolet C, ultraviolet B, which I'm thinking is about 275 to 321 nanometers. It's very tiny. By the way, ultraviolet B is responsible for most skin cancers and things of that nature. And then you have ultraviolet A, which is a little larger of a wavelength. Now, these ultraviolet is normally filtered out by our atmosphere, so the effects upon the skin are negligible, right?
Okay.
With an influx of radiation, now all this, what I'm talking about, is also radiation. It's radiation. Radiation has a wavelength too.
Okay.
All radiation emissions have wavelengths, so we're talking about wavelengths. It just so happens that the smaller ones have a bullet-type effect, and when you get into X-rays and gamma rays, they will actually target atoms in your system. When this happens, they can destroy your DNA. They can destroy certain cells of organs, causing deformations and things of that nature. Gamma rays are even worse. They will actually normally hit the nucleus on an atomic level in your body. Just totally, they can obliterate you, which makes a gamma ray burst very dangerous to all life on this planet. So then we're going to have a problem with ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet radiation we're going to have a problem with. All of these things are light, but they have different effects based on the wavelength.
Are all these things going to cause, we're going to see an uptick, let's say, in skin cancers, heart condition, maybe heart attacks, numbers may climb, different types of different physical ailments? Are we going to see more physical ailments from all of this?
Yes, because let's just say that ultraviolet, or the K value in some of the instruments that you can measure online, is they can't report what's actually out there. We have a problem. There's a problem with ultraviolet radiation penetrating the atmosphere. Now, the Earth's atmosphere normally blocks ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, right, and microwaves. It normally blocks it. The Earth's atmosphere does. So microwaves don't normally penetrate the atmosphere. Ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays don't normally penetrate the atmosphere, but through a loss in the magnetosphere, they're starting to penetrate. And beryllium-10 is building up in the atmosphere. Beryllium-10 is produced when elements in the atmosphere are exposed to cosmic rays. It's beginning to build up quite a bit, which means the radiation in the atmosphere is building up. is building up. It's a compounding, it's a cumulative effect. It's not going to go back down. It's going to continue to build up.
Wow.
These wavelengths, this infrared, these ultraviolet waves will also penetrate the Earth's surface, going into the magma, exciting those molecules, right? Causing more heat. Now, with more heat, you have what? Eruptions.
Yeah.
With more heat. And so under the Earth is actually warming up. We're warming up from the inside out is what's happening. We have nickel pouring out of the North Atlantic Ocean. Nickel is pouring out in a crack in the North Atlantic Ocean.
That's crazy.
We're talking about nickel.
Right.
Is coming up from there. And so these are just effects on the Earth. The South Atlantic, Indian Ocean, and South Pacific Ocean, they're heating up from the inside out. Because there are a lot of rifts in the southern hemisphere, and so all this cosmic radiation is being filtered right down through the northern halves and portions of the southern halves of all of these planets is where the excessive heat is building up.
Wow.
From the south, all the planets are heating up.
So it's not just Earth's magma or Earth's core that's heating up from the waves of energy, but the core of every planet is heating up because of this waves. Now, 2 weeks ago, as you know, Mike, BP Earthwatch captured, and I know you went and looked at the instruments, and you have some other instruments you were able to look at that he's not, and you confirmed that we did have these 3 small ripple effects ahead of this second big wave. You told us we would have some ripple effects in October, and we did. Now the big wave's coming on December 26th. Besides ultraviolet rays, besides gamma rays, besides radiation, you're saying it will also begin to heat up the Earth's core, which will thus produce more fissures will open up in the Earth, more cracks in the Earth's surface, more earthquakes, more volcanic eruptions. Do you foresee the first 100 days after the second wave a significant uptick?
Oh, yes.
You said that very confidently.
It's unavoidable, and it's going to be an issue. You know, nobody's going to have to be told that the Earth is undergoing some catastrophic changes. That's going to be highly evident. And so this band, this belt, this wave of cosmic rays coming in is going to be quite influencing on all the planets. I wouldn't be surprised if people would notice, if they have Earth-based telescopes, even something you can buy out of a store, to actually see Mars in the future, see changes on Mars, like large heat plumes forming. Water, you're going to hear stories about the melting of water on Mars, slushy areas on Mars, because it will begin to heat up too. Mars lost its atmosphere due to something. Now they know for a fact something came through their solar system, and they're playing dumb, because if they told everybody, it would be a long durational panic. Everybody would live in fear, knowing that one day they truly have to die. One of the constructs of mankind is they don't actually believe that one day they're going to die, because we have the mentality to say, not me. That's why we make plans for tomorrow. If we knew that one day we had to leave this earth, we wouldn't have plans for tomorrow. So many people will chalk that up to, I don't know. Most people don't believe that they're going to pass away, or they would take care of their business so that when they do pass away, all things are taken care of. But we both know people die without insurance and things of that nature. And so if they told this truth of what actually happened in our solar system, based on their records that they truly have, then everybody would be in a panic, and they're not going to do that. Nobody would accept governmental rule or anything else. We would see wars as useless. We would say, bring our boys home, let's talk about family. But that's not what they want. They don't want that.
All right, Mike, another question. This one came from Karen. Her husband has a pacemaker. If there's an EMP knockout, could it affect the pacemakers? And this not only is this EMP now, let's say, coming from China or for some other country, but could these waves of energy affect pacemakers that are in the human body?
Now, that will be contingent upon the magnetosphere.
Okay.
Here's what will happen. Already the atmosphere is highly charged. Here's how that works. About every 100 feet you go up from the surface of the Earth, the potential of voltage also goes up. So that at about, 8 feet, there's 100 volt potential at 8 feet of the Earth.
Okay.
In the air,
Okay.
100 volts, right? And you can harness that voltage. Nikola Tesla, he did it.
Yeah.
People do it today. There's certain devices that do this. They draw electricity out of the atmosphere because it's always being charged by those solar winds that come in, and the Earth captures that energy, distributing that in the atmosphere. If our magnetosphere fails in certain degrees, or it goes a little lower while this band is coming through, all those charged particles are going to breach straight down to the surface of the Earth. If this happens, any lithium exposed is going to become superheated. And all of your phones have lithium batteries, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of certain combat-related sat phones. They don't use lithium because it can't explode. Pacemakers also operate by some things inside of them, and in a lot of cases by motion, so they work with a capacitive type discharge electricity, right? That can be very dangerous with a capacitor because you can also overcharge a capacitor. So if the body absorbs that electricity, which it will do, it won't harmlessly pass through the body. It will overcharge that pacemaker's circuitry. And then poof, that person's going to have arcs coming all over himself out to everywhere else because it will attempt to ground itself. So in essence, guess what? There will be a type of lightning bolt coming out of the person finding the closest ground is what will happen when this. Now, this is already taking place with quite a few people. Our news guy, Larry Bond, had that happen to him with his pacemaker, right? So I went back and did some research and come to find out it's not an isolated event. Already, sparks are jumping from people's pacemakers to about 25 feet through the air.
Is this from
other folks?
Now, this isn't from an EMP, from a weapon.
No.
This is from the natural response from the waves of energy.
That is from the changes in the magnetosphere and the increased radiation and charged particles that are entering into the atmosphere.
And what's affecting
and it's going to get a lot worse.
What's affecting the magnetosphere? Is it the waves of energy, or are we talking CERN?
No, the wave of energy, right, is pouring through, but it's not the bulk part has not come through yet. It affects the sun and all the planets. Changes in the sun are a direct result of what happens with the waves. On August 17th, the sun did a small wicked shimmy, right? Okay. And the Earth did too, and so did Mars, and so did certain communications satellites and some of the probes that they lost contact with momentarily. Some were knocked off course. All this happened on August 17th. Some of the volatile materials in various plants started igniting all by themselves. You're talking about two separate compounds kept in certain containers, and all of a sudden their balance, their natural balance went amok, and then they ignited. So, because we did have explosions on August 17th out of the blue.
We did.
You remember that?
Mike, I remember just as we were coming in closer to that August 17th date, and even just shortly after, we kept having factories in China, in Germany, in Moscow, Russia, in America, chemical factories just blowing sky high, just blowing up for no reason. And I kept thinking, is this terrorism doing this? So is there people doing this? And then it kind of finally quieted down. So you're saying that was really from that first wave of energy?
Yes, because it was not isolated. It was happening all over the world.
Yes,
it
was.
Even in isolated regions, like there are certain places in the Arctic, it was happening there too. Certain places in Siberia happening there too. Now, the Arctic, these places don't have terrorist activity up there.
No.
But the volatile chemicals, right, that are combustible and things of that nature, when the nucleus is knocked out, the composition of that molecule changes, and it was causing them to ignite. And so that was the first wave. So this second wave that comes through is a long durational wave, and it will build up the forces inside of the Earth. People will feel the sun is going to be very dangerous, certainly in the month of December. It's already dangerous. People should be noticing a type of sting from the sun on their flesh. And what that is ultraviolet waves penetrating their flesh. And they have filtered out those bans on all public data, we have to remember we live in the computer age, right? So all data before it's presented is also filtered. And they can stop any communication from ever reaching anybody's computer if they want to, because all things are going through the internet. The internet's being filtered through a mainframe that's so incredibly fast that all data can be changed on the fly. So everything is being filtered. But that ultraviolet intensity is increasing in the earth. Pastor Paul, this is going to cause excessive hair loss. This is going to cause a massive loss. People who are pregnant and things of that nature, it's going to cause the people to go sterile. They won't be able to have children once it continues to build, because the process is not going to back off. It's going to build up. So not too many children are going to be born because of because people are going to be made sterile by this radiation. It's going to cause teeth failure. Right, because the bones are affected by, and this has been happening over the course of the last 21 years, is that a lot of people's bones have been affected by the small doses of cosmic rays that have been coming up to the buildup right down this time that we live in now. And it's been causing a bone failure, which means people have aches and pains where they never had aches and pains. And they have inflammation they can't get rid of. They have a heavy leg syndrome, which is something fairly new, and a lot of people don't know what that is. We're going to undergo certain gravitational changes. And with a gravitational change, Pastor Paul, a simple virus can be made 700 times more lethal than what it is. So that means a common virus will be lethal to an individual. They're not just going to get a fever, they're going to die from that thing.
You know what, just to that point, we just had a young lady yesterday pass away that Heidi and I knew personally. She just got sick, she got a bad cough, she got pneumonia. Next thing you know, she had MRSA. Next thing you know, she was dead. It was the strangest thing in the world. We're still trying to figure out how in the world this could happen so quickly to someone younger than us and relatively healthy. Matter of fact, I have a third question for you. We're right on the money here, and that was from Caesar. Caesar's down there in Miami, Florida. He asked the question, if the second wave is gamma radiation, is this... Which he knows then is going to cause these stinging, this burning on the skin that you just got done talking about. He's saying, is that Revelation 16, or is that, it may not be the exact moment of it, but Revelation 16 does say that in verse 9, when the angel pours out his vial upon the sun, and power given unto him to scorch men with fire, and men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which had power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. A lot of times we think of great heat, we're just thinking about temperature rising, but it doesn't have to be temperature rising, does it? It could be radiation and UV rays, gamma rays rising, causing intense burning of the skin and that thing.
That's right. If ultraviolet penetrates, life is going to die. It's going to burn up on this planet. And one thing about these vials that are pouring out, they don't go back. So once one vial, when that angel pours that vial into the sun, right, and people are scorched, it's not going away. It's just going to continue to scorch them.
So judgment is a process. I mean, one thing to look at in Revelation, a lot of times people look at Revelation and they just think, okay, judgment's come, boom, everything's going to happen at once. No, judgment is a process. It's a prolonged process. And during that entire process, God is still reaching out to us as a human race saying, come to me, please come to me. So this 5 months of scorching of men, I mean, I would say probably it'd be more intense in some places of the earth than others. But the rumor will spread around the world of this intensity, this skin cancers and these scorching of men's skin and the imbalances that are going to come from this.
Pastor, let me explain it this way. You've seen vitrification in the archaeological sites around the world when sand turns into glass.
Yes,
correct?
Yes. When lightning.
You've heard about that vitrification.
Yes.
Now, some of the vitrification is associated with a nuclear signature. Right?
Okay, yes, that's
and
true.
In the Mahabharata, the Vedic text and all these things, you have their stories and things of that nature. There's also a band of iridium around this globe, which means that at some point this entire Earth was irradiated. Iridium is a byproduct of a nuclear weapon as we know it today, based upon our development. But if our magnetosphere is too weak, microwaves are going to penetrate the atmosphere. Right now, the magnetosphere holds microwaves from frying things.
I got you.
So imagine putting your hand in a microwave and turning it on for a few seconds.
No.
It will boil the water molecules in your flesh. And the majority of the human body is made up of water.
Yeah.
Right?
That's not good.
So then if microwaves breach the atmosphere, all life, wherever that microwave reaches, is in trouble.
Yeah.
And they know this because this happened in the north frozen regions, and it was a no-go zone for a while. There were folks that actually went into this region, and within 30 seconds, they had blisters all over their skin. And that was a no-go region. That nobody could go into these certain areas. That actually took place in 2004. And then we had a problem with the ozone, and that same thing took place, which is why they have an ozone warning system, because microwaves will penetrate through and fry people.
All right.
So that vitrification would come from microwaves constantly going through. But if microwaves can come through, ultraviolet and X-ray can too.
All right, now Mike.
So that's a problem.
Now to move along here, because time can get away from us, and there's some. We need to find out some reasons for this. All right, second wave of energy is going to hit December 26th. 100 days after, your words, people are going to know something's going on. Do you see an increase in meteorites hitting, like we had in Australia, like we had in Russia yesterday? Do you see an increase during that 100 days? And my second question is the source of the waves. Planet X, Planet 9, Planet 7X, Nibiru, call it whatever you want, binary system. Is that the source of these waves? And it's only going to intensify, because you talk about the 5 waves of energy. So help me out. Will we see, first question, first 100 days after the second wave, increases in meteorites? Will that increase? Will there be extreme weather conditions radically? Tell us a little bit about that. And then number 2, what is the source of the waves?
The weather conditions to come will truly be an enemy of all mankind. It will be the most devastating things that people have seen. We've seen the build up to it, and it's only just beginning. I mean, if people think they have seen bad weather and these phenomenal outpours of rain and things, they haven't. No one on this earth has experienced what the weather patterns can actually do. You know, it's confusing meteorologists, and all their predictions are failing left and right, because they're trying to avoid the fact that our southern hemisphere is too hot. The rainmaker machine is in the air, and all that moisture is going to get trapped in the atmosphere and just pour down, because the earth seeks it's a natural process that balance be held around the earth, right? So with all that displacement of water and with the earth tilt, we're going to see some very catastrophic changes. Water is going to be an enemy of mankind, and so will wind. So will the winds. And during that time, the sun's power is going to be magnified greatly. You're looking, this year coming up, you remember that one time a few years ago, and it was scoffed, but I said that temperatures, people are going to see temperatures of about 140 degrees. And they said, no way. Well, they saw temperatures of 140 degrees, and nobody really wanted to report on that because thousands died during those days. Here in America, there's coming a time, and it could be this time coming up, where the average temperature is going to be about 121 degrees. Right?
What?
So then all the temperatures in America are going to severely excel, but it's going to be very difficult to tell if it's summer, winter, or whatever, because of the drastic nature of the jet stream. The winds will continue to increase as the water temperature also increases. And then we'll happen to have superstorms, formations of cumulonimbus clouds that just dwarf anything else. The large hurricanes have been forming. We talked about that too, and these things are only going to continue to expand. Bad phenomena. Very bad. As far as the other question you asked me was, people wanted to know if
the source.
My memory. What was
the source? The source of the
waves.
Okay,
the source. Now, you know I believe in a binary system.
Okay.
Right? And I don't really use the term Nibiru and what the other folks call it, because to me it's a binary system.
Okay.
It's a binary system. So I guess it doesn't matter what people call it, but I believe in a binary system, and people will see the star, that binary, or some of its objects. And this binary system, the mass of the entire binary system would be enough mass to adjust our solar system to itself. That is a mass it would have to be. A lot of people calculate by distance, and then they equate the mass of certain objects, right?
Okay.
But with a dual solar system, while it's way out there, that mass by itself would be enough to alter certain things in the solar system. As two stars in a binary system begin to approach one another, the forces on both of those stars begin to change. If the stars change, so do the planets. So will the orbits, so will the rotations and everything else. Now that would explain the perturbations that people have been noticing, like NASA. Now NASA's going to dodge and skip around that subject. But the truth is, these organizations do believe in a binary system also, which is why they cut the conversation in the 90s. They just cut it off, because once they found what they were looking for, they said, well, what's the use? It's coming anyway. Let's just get prepared for it.
Right.
And so in 2004, everything went serious. The governments of the world were then involved in 2004 to make preparations to survive. Now, I got to ask you something. Why in the world will anybody make an underground base if the world were going to be underwater? They wouldn't.
No.
Right? You'd make a boat.
You'd make a boat. You'd be building an ark.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, if the Earth were going to be bombarded with meteorites, the underground base would be perfect for that.
Yeah. And that's...
If the Earth were ever going to be hit by something catastrophic where it would destroy the Earth, the underground base wouldn't do any good. So that tells us two things. The Earth is not going to be destroyed by what impacts it, but we're going to get a shower of rocks coming into the Earth, burning up most of their cities.
Right.
We're also going to see a massive water displacement event. They have strategically placed some of these underground bases and areas of operations away from predicted areas that are prone to go under the water. There is a portion of the United States that's on a very solid foundation, very solid rock. They dug into that rock. Some of the sonic booms people have been hearing are in fact them blowing up things underground to dig further holes and to do things underground. That will echo and appear to come from the sky, but it's not coming from the sky. It's coming from underneath the surface of the Earth where they're digging. Yeah. Now, these neutrino counters are deep down into the Earth. There are laboratories in the Earth.
I know.
They don't mind telling anybody. I mean, deep down into the Earth. They're so deep that people run marathons in the tunnels. Marathons in the tunnels deep down into the Earth, because it's a great challenge. And so these bases are built to withstand a loss of the magnetosphere.
Okay.
That's why I believe that CERN, with their technology, now that's a multifaceted project, but I simply do believe that they're trying not to blow themselves up, certainly not to take the magnetosphere down, but they're trying to save their own skins.
Now, Mike,
in the space age,
I talked to a guy this past week when I was in Pennsylvania. Talked to two different people who've been in the underground tunnels as vendors. The one man drove a semi-truck. He was told to pick up a trailer at a certain government location. The trailer had a special locks on it, combination locks, so he could not open his trailer. So he had no idea what was inside the trailer. His job was to drive to the entrance of the tunnels, to drive into the tunnels over a mile. As he was driving, he told me this. He said there were vaults along the tunnel path he was on. Those vaults had combination locks, like bank vaults. So if you was to go in to get inside, you'd have to know the combination. No doubt you would have to have your identification, your iris, and whatever else would be required to open the vault. He said some of the vaults had actual names of companies on them above the door, but most of them were blank, just a number. So there was something. If you went in the vault, you'd be going into a whole different city, not city, but a whole different, laboratory, or maybe it was a weapons testing, or maybe it was biological work. And he said he drove over a mile, and when he got to this location. He was to pull his truck in and park it, and there was a reserved place for it. He gets out of the truck. As soon as he got out of the truck, there were 2 armed guards. They walked him into a cafeteria that was huge. He said there was 3,000 to 4,000 people eating lunch. You walk in, you get a tray. The food was fabulous. You sat there. He said, I had to sit. Another man got in the truck, would drive on to wherever the truck had to go. The trailer would get left wherever it went. And about an hour later, the truck driver comes back with his rig, and he gets in it and he leaves the building. And I mean, he leaves the tunnels, goes back up to the surface and go. He said he did this for 6 weeks, every day for 6 weeks, had no idea what he was delivering, and had no idea how he was getting paid, other than he was told the money would be in his bank account. And then it did. It appeared. It was very, very lucrative. He told me this, that was one man. Another man told me his job was to go inside one of the vaults and put in 6 security cameras. He had to do it under armed guards. He was only allowed to go certain spaces, certain areas. He had to work. He could not. He had no idea who the surveillance cameras were for, or what they were going to monitor. Only that they worked. And so, your point about underground tunnels, you're saying, Paul, you don't build underground tunnels if the earth's going to flood like the days of Noah. And we can back that up in the Bible, because the Lord said he would not destroy the earth anymore by water. Not that there won't be water and floods and different major catastrophes and tsunamis and even changes of water locations, like you say, because of the pressure. But this earth, according to the Bible, is going to melt with a fervent heat. There's going to be some massive fire and brimstone's going to fall. You're saying this is coming soon. How soon, Mike? How soon will we see more and more of fire or brimstone falling?
2017 is going to be a very interesting year. So will the month of December, going into January, and that's going to be very interesting. Pastor Paul, that first of all, those truck drivers are lucky, because most people who become part of these underground operations are never allowed to come back to the surface. They're just not. It's too much of a security risk. And the reason you see corporations down, that should be, people need to discuss that, because what they have done was taken everything useful from topside, and they've created a secondary breakaway civilization in these protected areas. And that's where things are being run right now, not topside. We see the public, and see, that's why I say the government has already changed. People are just used to the ideology of what's being presented to them. The real government is established underneath the earth in safe zones. CERN is replicating the Earth's magnetic field. One thing they learned in the space age is that you cannot send anybody to space if you do not replicate the Earth's magnetic shielding. And so in every vehicle that goes into space, they have to replicate this, or the neurological connections in the human brain are broken. And you have to replicate that electromagnetic field. CERN is doing just that every time it cranks up. These are multifaceted things. They're not going to pour all that money just to break a particle apart.
Yeah.
They have already accomplished what they were looking for. They have something that far surpasses a nuclear weapon. People are still talking about nuclear weapons, and they have dangers greater than that. They have global killers, if you want to call it that. Mankind right now has power to destroy the earth, though they'll never assemble some of those weapons, but they can.
Right.
But we know the earth is not going to be assembled, and if the Lord did not cut time short, they would have destroyed everything on the face of the earth. But he's going to cut time short, so they never do that.
Oh, I give you the name. I'm going to make news. And give you the name of one company that he told me. And that was Time Warner. Time Warner has a vault deep, and it is what it does in whatever you do when you get in that vault, what goes on past there, I have no idea. He has no idea. But that was one. He told me 4 different companies, but I'm just going to give you that one. Time Warner is one of the companies down in the heart of the earth. Who knows what they do? To your point, there is cities, there are people working down there who will never come to the surface. I believe that. I know that's true. They never get to come to the surface. It's too big of a security risk. Whole families are living underground in these cities. and maybe it's the mother or maybe it's the father, one of them that has the intellectual property and capability to do the things that need to be done there. But there's no question. I know you know it, and there's just, look, this is a different world. We're going into an area we've never been before. The waves of energy, the shaking of the heavens. Jesus said the heavens will be shaken. But we also know we're going to soon see the coming of the Son of Man. I mean, it's right after that. You know, we're in the ballpark here, aren't we?
That's right. And we know that in the Bible they prepared these places to go. And you can't prepare those places overnight. And so these activities began in World War II, and they have perfected quite a few things since then. And they will hide themselves and tell the rocks to fall on us. In other words, seal us in from the wrath of the Lamb.
Yeah.
And you know what? In Revelation 6, I often wondered, how did they know it was the wrath of the Lamb? Because the wrath of the Lamb is everything unfavorable to them, but it's the very thing we're looking for. Isn't that funny? We're looking for the wrath of the Lamb because for us, it's the ultimate victory. To them, it is the doom of them. But they have these, listen, they've activated half of these places. In the United States, Russia has activated their underground facilities. They've only leaked a portion of it concerning their civilians. They will keep a portion of the population and protect them. And there are people already down there. This was completed in 2012, 2013. They completed the populous facilities. And so what I'm saying is that even right now, you know, I often tell people this, when you no longer see important leaders with fresh video of them outside, well then what you better do is stop playing, because they've gone underground. When you see leaders with fake backgrounds and things of this nature, and you don't see them outside anymore, well that means something has happened. Now prior to that time, and this is something I can share, Pastor Paul, prior to the time of the doors of them actually going inward, because they have to go into the earth at least a year before it takes place. Right? There's still systems to test. There's pressures. They have to pressurize things. All these, they have to totally cut themselves off. All the United States military bases had a mandate prior to 2015 to have electrical power supplied by either gas or natural resources in the earth. They had to be isolated from the grid. Now, why would they do that? Why would they mandate that a military base had to be isolated from the grid? Because they know what's going to happen to the grid. They have taken certain leaders out of the loop. They report them as dead, but they're not dead. This is how they take important people. They say, well, the guy died, or well, this guy just disappeared, and nobody hears about the fella anymore. So the populace will say, oh, how unfortunate. But the guy is still living underground, and nobody's going to look for him because he's been reported dead. So they take them underground. You don't see fresh video of leaders. You start seeing reruns on the news. And then they give the populace exactly what they want. And this is what with this election, Pastor Paul, I'll have to say two things about this election.
Okay.
Number one is this: we are the children of the living God, so I can never subscribe to anything's going to be out of control so long as we stand with the Lord. Right? I mean, if one person lives in a community and they're serving the Lord, that entire community could be spared for the sake of that one person. And the Holy Spirit is absolute power and strength. So it is us that can't fall. If we fall, it's all lost. But this country is being sustained because of us.
That's right.
In fact, it didn't matter if a bad leader got in there, but we stand with the Lord, we can change everything. All we have to do is petition, and the power of the living God will begin to change everything for our sake. He'll do what he does for our sakes. But what we have here is we have two candidates. Now you have to look at this. You have two candidates that nobody wants. I mean, if you really think about it, you have two candidates nobody wants. Why in the world would it come down to a female and someone that totally tricked the establishment, which I think is funny because they brought Donald Trump in there to make a fool of himself, so that the people would naturally run to the other candidate, but it backfired on them. all their polling data was wrong and everything else, and now they're scratching their heads.
They're scrambling right now.
They need this cover to get the rest of it done.
Yeah.
Because something tragic is about to happen, Pastor Paul, and they're going to blame it on whoever's in the White House. Now, we all know that the Middle East is not going to work with a woman. They're going to turn their back on the United States, and we're going to see things fall apart like we never saw fall apart before. In a like manner, the Middle East is terrified of Donald Trump because of his affiliation with the Republicans. So either way, we're going to have some things going.
Wow.
But Christians, we are the ones that have to stay. We have to stay focused.
It still comes down to us.
Of this country.
You're exactly right. It's still going to come back down to us again, the Christians. We're going to have to carry the load. The spiritual heavy lifting is going to have to be done by us, and we're going to have to take this nation under our wings, and we're going to have to lift it up in the name of Jesus. That's where the power of prayer. So we can't put. That's why you can't put your faith in man. You have to keep your faith and your focus with God, because no matter what, it's still coming down to us. Mike, I gotta ask another question because it's pertinent to what we said we would ask you, and that is the sun. We've got this huge, what looks like black hole on the sun. I know what a sunspot is. These are so big. It's the atmospheric protection of the sun. They're huge, and that means these solar winds are just blowing stuff through with nothing slowing it down. I mean, can you help us understand is that going to be affected is the sun being affected by the source of the pressure of the 5 waves of energy?
Yes, it is. In fact, our heliosphere has already been breached, and all these cosmic rays have already breached the heliosphere. Wow. And that is the protective layer around the entire solar system. It's already breached, and so those cosmic rays are building, and they will directly affect the sun. The sun's power and its gravitational forces and its warmth is felt all the way out to Pluto. And so there's some strong forces upon the sun. It is absolutely being affected by this wave. And this wave has its origins from 2 specific stars. The nature of this wave is not good, and they're already detecting other things that are going to smack us. And we have a severe problem coming from the cosmos. Everybody's going to entertain a day when it looks like somehow the atmosphere ignited, and this will follow all the auroras that will continue to increase. They will increase, but it's going to look like the atmosphere ignited. We will see plasma conduits coming down to the surface of the earth because the magnetosphere is going to begin to collapse in certain areas, in vortices, and those plasma conduits are going to be seen with the naked eye. So nobody go near them, right? People are going to.
What do they look like?
They're going to be plasma conduits.
Plasma conduits. What do they look like?
It looks like a vase. Right? Because you'll see the bottom part as it's connecting to Earth, but it looks like a vase, almost like it kind of resembles a person, is what it looks like. Plasma conduits kind of resemble a person. If you saw it from a distance, it will take the shape of a person, a very, very strange shape, but it will look like a person, a well-lit up person.
Okay.
Right? But if you get near one or touch one, it will just, it's going to incinerate. It will just evaporate your skin or anything else. Wherever it hits, it's going to be desolate. This is going to be a phenomenon that will take place upon the earth. It will instantly vitrify any type of sand or silicone that's around. Instantly.
Okay, Mike.
And a long time ago they know it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Next question real fast is, Wave 2 is going to hit December 26th. 100 days after that, or during the 100 days after that, we're going to see some serious changes, maybe some fireballs, maybe definitely some gamma rays, some changes, extreme weather conditions, maybe temperature increasing, volcanoes, eruptions, earthquakes. When is Wave 3, and how big is it?
Pastor Paul, by the end of Wave 2, okay, Wave 2 hits. It's going to trickle in December 26th, right?
Okay.
We're going to start feeling effects. It'll be a 180-day span that we're going to feel the effects. 180 days.
Okay.
We're going to feel the effects of that span. But what it's going to do right now in the minds of a few, it's absolutely going to be unrecoverable. You just simply, this is not something everybody's going to recover from. It just isn't. because it will, on the 26th, the first thing we're going to notice up into that date is strange activity in the sun. That will trickle up to breathing problems with people due to dust in the atmosphere.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So people should expect to have certain types of breathing problems.
Okay.
Then it will build up the magma in the earth, and you're going to see some very, very dormant volcanoes begin to go active. I mean extremely dormant volcanoes, possibly some new ones that were uncharted. They don't know where all the volcanoes are. When that takes place, and we're living in that type of, you're going to have that volcanic activity is going to cause this type of crustal displacement. Now, I'm actually praying that we don't have a major tilt episode during that time, because then, all bets are off. But even during that time, there's a lot of debris that will begin to come in 2017. Lots of debris following the trail of this thing.
Crustal displacement. Explain that to me. Earthquakes?
Well, that is when the actual top layer of the earth and fractures in the earth like an eggshell because the earth is going to go through a warping event. It'll somewhat warp more than usual because of gravitational forces and the electromagnetic pull. We'll notice this by the moon's rotation. Something will continue to happen to the orbit of the moon around the earth. In like manner, the orbit of the earth around the sun will change. In like manner, the sun itself will begin to change, which will warp the earth. The earth is not perfectly round, right? The earth is somewhat of an oval. It's not perfectly round. That ovalness will continue, and it will also shift. So then the earth could be elongated at about 20 degrees instead of 0 degrees. With an oval about 20 degrees, you're looking at the equator belt of water that's 300 feet high plus, right, settling into another region. This will put pressure on the land masses, cracking the crust of the earth, because that water is going to help to break apart the crust of the earth itself.
Okay.
It will cause a crustal displacement.
Okay, let me read a couple verses and see if this is what you're explaining. Isaiah 24, verse 1. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. It shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it. It shall fall and not rise again. Some of this wording it sounds like some of the things you're explaining.
Yeah, that's not good too. That word spoil means utterly ruined. The inhabitants of the earth, the entire earth, displaced. That means where home is to us now will not be home. Everybody's going to be forced to make adjustments.
Wow.
Lord help us all. And I know this is hard to believe, but that it's not the point of believing something like that or not, but that the Lord always has somebody. He will always have someone to make it aware in the minds of many that, yes, the Lord already declared these things to happen, and it just so happens we live in a time where these things are unfolding. Now, some of us can see out there a lot further than other folks through optics and other things. But these things are coming upon the earth, and crustal displacement is going to be real. The earth is already tilted, and many people have not noticed. That's why they see sundials out of position.
Yeah.
In 2010, we set up some sundials, and we were watching those sundials so that we could actually equate the differences in the Earth's tilt. Well, the results of that is just not good. And so that's not the only thing that tilted. The poles of the sun have also shifted. Right?
Okay.
Everything from that point has gone digital, Pastor Paul. So with digital optics, they can actually present to the world what they allow them to know. But if a person did simple exercises, they can know it themselves. Right? They can see the changes themselves. There will come a point where we cannot rely on information from the internet, and it's quickly hitting this point now because all that data is being presented to the public. If it's classified, you're just simply not going to see it. There are no such things, in my opinion, as leaks, because I know how the internet works, and I know the systems all things have to go through. And I'm telling you, everything is up on its head. So even down to Hillary's email leaks. Now they know this is happening. She has backstabbers. People in the Democratic Party do not want to see Hillary rise. They're the ones giving it.
Right.
To WikiLeaks and all these other people, right?
Right.
Why do you give it to WikiLeaks? Because nobody's going to go to investigate WikiLeaks. That's why. But if you give it to somebody known in the USA, so they don't want Hillary as president for some reason, right?
Power shift.
It's a little more dangerous than what you think. And for all these people who don't like Donald Trump because he's going to press the button on nuclear weapons, first of all, that's impossible. No president can press the button on a nuclear weapon. The system is not set up like that, just so you know. So he can't do that. But Donald Trump is that unknown figure, and he surely is against the establishment. Yes, he's rich. Yes, he's done some things in his life. But I can tell you right now, the establishment needs to beguile people just a little bit more. They're doing this because they're setting up something else. So the true statement is this, Pastor Paul, and everybody's going to see it. The new system has already been installed. We just can't see it yet.
Are you talking about the mark of the beast? Are you talking mark of the beast system?
It is installed. That system is installed. That system is a go. It's installed. We just can't see it yet. During the course of some type of catastrophe or large-scale threatening happening in the earth, it will be sprung upon the populace. See, they have to spring this system when people are desperate.
Yeah.
They have to.
I agree.
Which is why Christians should never operate by being desperate.
No.
To understand the Lord is their provider.
So you're saying
for all things in our lives.
Amen. You're saying that the system is already done. They've already got it. It's ready to go. But they need an event to spring load it. And that event has to be because the entire world is in a state of panic, in a state of total, utter panic, and scared to death and not know where to turn. That'll be the moment.
That's right.
Okay. And as Christians, that's why we don't operate in fear, folks. For the Lord hasn't given us the spirit of fear. That's why we won't fall for it, because we aren't led by our emotions. The media does not dictate our thought process. They do not tell us what to do. We have discernment through the Holy Spirit. That's what I'm hearing you say, Mike. We won't fall for the trap. But multiple millions and millions of people who are not born again are like sheep led to the slaughter. They will follow the beast. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
They will, and they won't know it. And this system is a go portion. People are wearing the mark of the beast on their sleeve already, and they're not aware of it. Yeah. Those same people who operate in these desperate, if they don't know the Lord, Pastor Paul, and when they're suffering, and they see somebody not suffering, I'm telling you, they're going to run to the FEMA camps and say, feed me.
Yeah,
they're going to run to anybody because they're suffering. They have not died to the flesh daily. They're going to be fearful of their lives because the truth is they live this life to save their own skins. And people who do this will take the mark of the beast. Yeah. And it's going to turn out to be, the mark of the beast is much more than what people had bargained for.
Mike, also, and unfortunately to say this, but there will be some Christian religious leaders who will lead the sheep to the ditch, the blind leading the blind. There will be some that will do it, won't they?
Yeah, actually, there are plants in the churches now.
Yeah.
With a 501c3.
Right.
There's some churches who make over a certain amount of money. They have to answer to the government.
Right.
They have to answer to the government.
Yep.
And they're in a position now where either they keep their ministry making,
millions.
hundreds of millions of dollars, or they preach the truth and get all their income slashed. We're coming down to that point, to a decision.
Yep.
It's going to be either mammon or
God. And that's what Jesus said. You cannot serve two masters. You're either going to love the one and hate the other, hold the one, despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. And mammon includes a lot of things, not just cash itself, but it's going to include Obamacare, health care. It's going to include education. It's going to include economic opportunities. It's going to include being a part of society. And you know it, and I know it. The system is ready. They're just waiting on the event. And they've told us how many times. Rahm Emanuel told us, never let a good crisis go to waste. It seems like every time there's a crisis, they inch the system, the mark of the beast system inches a little closer to the top. So it's coming down, isn't it? It's coming down.
Yes, it is. Well, it really is. Pastor, I want to say one more thing.
All right.
Quick. Do you know why these prosperity preachers crept into the house of God?
Do
you know why?
Well, go ahead, explain. You tell us why.
Okay, with anything of the Father that would release his children, Satan comes in with a counterfeit
Yes.
to desensitize people to the truth. The prosperity gospel crept into the house of God to ruin folks from the tithe.
Oh,
to
you're
ruin
right.
folks from a true offering.
Yeah, from the tithe. You're exactly right.
That's what he did.
Turned it into a gospel lottery. Turned it into the gospel
That's
lottery.
what he did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. And he ruined it. And so people can't find the absolute victory in things because they don't give with a cheerful heart.
I know. And
They're
what
stressed.
happened?
They're under pressure.
You're right, Mike. You're right. And you know, God said He wants to bless His people. He wants to prosper His people. He really does. It's in the Word. It's part of the law of God's Word of giving. But it has to come from the heart as you do it. You do it. He give us a formula. You follow it, but you do it from the heart. You're guaranteed to be blessed. But what they're trying to do here is they're taking the giving away from their heart, from their heart, and they're trying to create a gospel lottery. And that isn't the reason for giving. And that is giving the glory to Lucifer instead of the glory to Christ. You've hit it out of the park today, Mike. You've hit it out of the park today. Boom, gone. We got a lot of great information in this. Wow, are you serious, Mike? Thank you again, folks. You can always go listen to Mike at COT. We were driving down the road the other day, and we were listening to your broadcast for about an hour as you were just talking away and sharing with people how they got to get their hearts right, how they got to get things right with God if they're going to survive during these times that we're in. I appreciate it very much, Mike.
Yeah, they do. Well, God bless your passport. It's always a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. God bless you. Amen. Mike from around the world, folks. COT.